Hello and welcome to another episode, very special episode of Glory of Golden State Gaming. I'm your host, Swamp Swimmer, and with us as always is the wind beneath my wings, Vespasian.
Wow, you're gonna do a different one every time, huh? Hey, everybody.
Today we thought we'd throw together a small video about the points changes that were recent released. What was it, about a week ago?
Yeah, exactly. Very cool.
And yeah, it's a new year. A couple small things for the channel. I've been receiving comments that my voice is low, so I'm using a different microphone. Viewers, if my voice is still too low, please let me know. And I'll order a new microphone. Another small thing is my co-host and I have decided that using our forum names through the whole videos has been a challenge, so we thought we'd use our first names, just so everyone knows I'm Kenyon, he's Aaron.
Hey,
Get, get ready for that
I
one.
just I don't usually call him Swamp Swimmer when I'm talking to him, so it makes it hard.
A small change to our channel format, but let's jump right into it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I like that the project, looks at things every year, right? I mean, big difference as compared to Games Workshop, where it was just each book dropping changed everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I like that they do that they're open to it. There's a lot of debate on the approach. They did release some things they were trying to work on. I think they were trying to make rank and file a little bit more competitive and single models, a little bit less than their current competitiveness. So a few things in here that I thought they did a pretty elegant job on, and yeah, we'll talk through it and kind of see what we think the impacts might be. Our prognosis.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm pleased with all the changes. Nothing crazy. The things that are being overused and abused have been pointed up, and then the stuff that's never used has been pointed down appropriately. I think the one thing that I missed was I was hoping for a point adjustment to the new Dread Elf books, like a very quick point adjustment, but it didn't happen. So not the end of the world, but that's what I was looking for also. But we didn't seem to get that.
I think those of you who have played against it would agree with Kenyon.
All right, let's jump right into it because if we take too long, it's gonna be a long video. So let's
Yep.
do right in the Arcane Compendium, straight to the last page. Some changes to spells. Let's see here. The ones I reviewed, oh, and just fair warning, I haven't reviewed all these specific things yet. I just kind of looked at the books that I'm using and most familiar with. So we might be skipping over a few things and reading things maybe for the first time. Let's see here. I just want to talk about where was it? Druidism. They changed the Oaken Throne to be if you have two Oaken Throne casters, two Druidism casters, the Oaken Throne will affect both casters. I think that's an interesting change because you'd never take two Druidism casters in one army.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Somebody pointed out an example. I think it might be in the Saurian book where you can be casting the Jade Staff and be affected by the Oaken Throne cast from a Skink Priest. I
Mm-hmm.
think is like one of the only examples I can think of. Maybe Briar Maidens and the Druidism in the Sylvan Elf list. So there's not a lot of examples, but good to
Mm-hmm.
clear it up, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Um, I think there's a few interesting ones in here as far as how they changed the lore. The alchemy one is a big change, moving Silver Spike from being a master only spell to being an adept
Mm.
spell
And the strength
is
went
an
up on
interesting change.
the strength went up on the after the first hit. The strength went up, which is interesting.
But
And
it
it's fun.
lost the
Yeah.
multi wounds.
I
Yeah.
think I'm kind of
Um,
sad about that because I think that's what made Silver Spike so unique before. If you could get it into a multi wound unit into its ranks, it was really interesting. Now it's just like, eh.
yeah. Cosmology had some big changes. I think, honestly, I think these changes make cosmology much better. Being able to debuff or buff by two on the
Mm-hmm.
altered site make more likely to make a difference.
Yeah, instead of just one.
Affects a
Yeah.
broader range of combat situations, I guess. And then Unity Divergence, having a strength 3 hit on every model in a unit or a 5+ ward
It's a
save
good
at
spell. It was a
casting
good spell
cost of 9.
before.
Yeah, that's a great spell. So yeah, that's a good one.
Let's see here.
Evocation
Just they changed some
is,
ranges and they lowered the casting value for the boosted version of Dance, which not many people use Dance.
yeah, true. The range loss on touch is big though,
Yeah, it's
although a
all.
lot
Yeah,
of the armies that have access to it have range boosting potential, so maybe
and
not
it's
big.
just a boosted version of Touch, so that's the D3 hits on a single model.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead.
The change to Breath of Corruption and Occultism needed. That spell is
Yeah,
amazing.
I agree. It was so good, and it was being used all over the place too. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Pyro, probably the biggest change because it's actually a new spell.
Yeah, this one's
So made,
interesting. Hmm.
yeah. Go ahead.
So this is they replaced um, was Cascading Fire of what it was. What was it before? That was the cast into combat.
Yeah, that was the hex
Yeah,
damage spell. Yeah.
and now it's basically a offensive skill debuff.
I think it's defensive and agility,
Oh, and
defensive
agility.
skill and agility. Yeah. So
So,
it's like a
but
pretty
it's
powerful hex.
against
That
anything heavily armored.
Yeah, exactly. So Pyromancy becomes less one-dimensional. Also, a change that I think does have a big impact is moving Scorching into Adept.
Hmm.
Um, that is a quite a powerful spell for an Adept, I think, and obviously there's a lot of armies that hate it, like Sylvan Elves. So it's a tough one. Yeah. But it changed the lore up a lot, which is
Yeah,
cool
where
because
do
Pyro is
you?
pretty one-dimensional.
I don't use pyro very much. How do you see this kind of change in the game?
I think, with Dread Elves probably going up in popularity, and this change, Pyro becomes a little bit of a more all-comers lore than it was before. Not an all-comers by any means, but still more well-rounded. So I could see Pyro going up in use quite a bit. Both masters and adepts, because I think that having Scorching Salvo as an adept spell, a lot of people bought masters for Scorching Salvo, I think. So
Hmm.
so yeah, I think it could change that the usage of that lore up a lot, or path, excuse me. Yeah.
Understood.
So you're the
Shamanism.
shamanism. Yeah, you
Yeah.
tell me.
Savage
How's
Fury
this
range
change?
went from 918 to 1224, which I think is great. I think Savage Fury is an underused spell, and it's because the non boosted version was only 9 inch range, which is that's short. Because Savage Fury, well, at least with my beast herds, it's a great spell, and I'll be using it more with this for sure. Break the Spirit base version went 8+ to a 9+, which I think is fine, totally legit. Break the Spirit's a great spell, totally versatile. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's a deserved change. It's nothing crazy. I don't think it's going to change any of the ways people play. To be honest,
Yeah.
thaumaturgy,
Not.
speaking in tongues, casting value 8 to 7. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Were you saying something?
Oh, no, no. I was just gonna start on that one, but
Yeah,
yeah, agree. Not a big change there.
yeah. Remind me what speaking in tongues is.
Oh, that's the one where a unit can't use BSB,
Mm,
or general, so it's a
easier to
very
cast. Yeah,
little used spell, I would say.
yeah. That's the thing.
You might see it. Yeah,
Eh, you see this being cast more.
there are some armies that hate it. Right? Like, you can think of armies that have inherently bad leadership but rely on like their general, like an Empire or a VS list where you might see this,
Yeah, I was thinking
kind of
ONG
moving the needle. Yeah, ONG. Yeah.
where you don't want that one unit to panic. You can throw
Mhm.
this on them and then shoot them and cause a panic check when they're low goblin leadership or something.
Yeah, so maybe. I mean, certainly it gets a lot easier to cast. So, yeah,
All right, witchcraft. Raven's Wing goes from 24 to 18, which I think Raven's Wing is a great spell, and restricting it I think is a good call. And
yep.
then Bewitching Glare redesigned as the old Dread Elf spell. What was the old?
That's the reroll to wound, crippling
Oh.
fatigue. So this is actually kind of an interesting change because it used to be battle focus.
Uh-huh.
So you could any hits
The
ranged
shooting
or
battle focus,
combat.
yeah.
Yeah. So this is a pretty big change. Rerolling to wound definitely is different from enhancing your hit rolls, right? So interesting to see how this one plays out. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
It definitely makes the witchcraft lore um, or path more combat oriented, I think.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Although there were some armies that really liked that battle focus spell, aspect to it. So, it could be there might be some armies that usually don't have trouble wounding, like orcs, say for example,
Hmm.
that maybe now this is not really a spell they'll use. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it, but it does change that lore quite a bit there.
Yeah,
So
because witchcraft has always been used to get crafty, did a lot of movements. The hereditary, the attribute spell gets you a whole bunch more movement. That's where it was focused around, and then this is kind of shifting direction from shooting and movement to being just straight up veteran combat.
yeah, could be interesting to see if people take witchcraft because of this spell, right? Whereas before, I don't think anybody ever took witchcraft because of bewitching glare. So
I mean, it's a great
yeah,
spell. I mean, it's basically almost the same thing as Spectral Blades, and in my opinion, Spectral Blades is like one of the best spells in the whole game.
true. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to special items. Kingslayer goes from 50 to 40 points, and it's restricted to only models on foot. Um,
It's actually a pretty big impact because you'd see a lot of mounted characters with Kingslayer.
yeah,
So that restricts and reduces some power of some single model builds, right? Going back to what we said at the beginning. So yeah, this is I think overall a reasonable change, but it does hit some builds.
yeah. And this Destiny calls this is a big change. Before, the only standard side models can take it. Now, anyone but constructs and models with towering presence. So this is you're going to see this on Griffin Princes. You're going to see this on.
Griffins have towering presence,
Oh, they do.
but
My bad. My bad.
Minotaurs,
Yeah, yeah,
ogre con mammoth hunters, for sure. There's a lot of
yeah. Like
little
what else?
mounts like eagles, right? Things like that.
Oh, eagles.
Elks.
Yeah.
Oh, elks already could take it actually, but eagles, for example, are usually large. So yeah, this is an interesting one. This is one I'm a little puzzled by. I don't know why they made this change, but they did. So
Yeah, and then and below that, right below that, it's the same change for Essence and Mithril.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's not that bad because I was thinking. I mean, it's basically giving these items to your large characters, as you said, like minotaurs, ogres,
Mhm.
and I guess it's not that horrible of a thing, but yeah.
I mean, the one thing I've heard people complain a little bit about, which I agree, is that the ogres were already able to kit out those mammoth hunters
Mm,
to a crazy degree, and now they've got two more price efficient, ways to kit them out than they used to. So it's kind of like a buff to an entry that didn't need it, I would say. But other than that, I can't really see this being like crazy impactful. I think you'll see Minotaurs kitted out with these
yeah,
definitely,
we can
and like an
definitely see that.
Aegor's and a Destiny's Call, for example, would probably be pretty typical, I would think.
And lastly, Legion Standard goes from 20, which was cheap before, to 10, which is dirt cheap. And this is just
Yeah,
the extra point when you got a big unit, extra point of rank in your static combat res.
yeah. I mean, interesting point, right? If you've got a rank and file unit with a champion in it and the Legion standard that's at full ranks, if a character charges in, eats your champion and takes max wounds, now with Legion standard, it's a push.
Yeah, and I
No
think
combat
this is
res
little
check,
little
right?
hint of what's coming in our preview, but it seems like these point change are very highly favoring rank and flank units, and taking a
Hmm.
little bit of power away from large and towering presence.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a good change though. I like that change overall, so I'm pleased with this.
Yeah, no complaints. I think that's a good change.
All right, so moving on to beast herds.
I'll let you drive. This is your baby.
Well, first of all, let's talk about the general note that almost all champions, musicians, and standards are moving from 20 points to 10.
Yeah.
Um, Again, favoring rank and flank models, big units.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
I like it. I mean, I actually, if your goal was to favor, rank and file units, it's a pretty elegant solution, right? Rather than having to go in and change every single model's price, right? What do units take? They take command options. So I thought
Mm-hmm.
it was a really nifty idea, easy way to inject some points into lists that use rank and file models, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
As far as the beast herds, I continuing the same theme. The special points adjustments I think are fair. The wild form wasn't used that much. Seed of the Dark Forest is always used. It's a never leave home without it. Beast Lord went down by 5 points. No big changes here. The Razor's Chariot went up by 15 on the Beast Lord, which I think is the right move. A lot of people run the Beast Lord on the Chariot. Kind of the interesting things are these 0 to 2 on Minotaur Warlord, Centaur Chieftain, and 0 to 4 on the Centaur Chieftain, and then also raiding chariots are 0 to 3 per army, and the Razor Tusk Chariot is 0 to 2 an army. So it's restricting. I didn't see a whole lot of that beforehand going over those numbers, but it's kind of restricting those crazy spam lists that you saw every once in a while.
You'll see little examples of that, in the Empire book, restrictions to apprentice Griffin riders, right? Mages on
Mm-hmm.
Griffins because somebody brought 20 of them or something crazy like that to a UB tournament. Same thing with the High Elf Griffins. You started seeing 5 of them and some spam lists. So it's some restrictions to kind of settle that out.
In core, Wildhorns just keep going down in points, the additional models, which is great. I love big units of Wildhorns. In special, the only thing I really want to point out is the big one is additional Longhorn models in the unit goes from 21 points down to 19, a drop of 2 points per model, which is, I think, significant.
Yeah. One thing that's worth noting is that the project thinks of these things generally as percentages, right? So a 10%, buff to that unit, that's actually like a pretty huge buff.
Yeah.
10% buff would be reserved for something that's virtually never seen, I would say. So, and I think other than you, that's true. I don't know that I saw too many big Longhorn
I love my
units.
Longhorns. I do. I do. I do. So that's interesting. And then all the characters, or I mean, all the monsters in Terrors of the Wild went down across the board.
Mhm.
The Jabberwock going down 15 points is interesting. People are slowly starting to take them again. I see a few people running them as just support monsters to get in there and get that -1 discipline.
Mhm.
But overall, it was a good point change for the beast herds, and it's favoring those big blocks, which I think is cool. And I'm going to be running them left and right.
Yep. Good changes. No complaints here.
As we said, Dread Elves had no point changes from the book.
I think they're forecasting one coming in the next, call
Yeah.
it month or two. Not nothing official there, but I know that the beta books go through quick iterations. So
All right, Dwarven Holds. We're getting into the books I haven't even like cracked open yet. So let's see here.
yeah, same.
A lot of the runes went down in points.
Hmm.
Characters
Yep.
went up in points.
Yeah, so there were a few characters like where is it? Like the Dragon Seeker character buffs, like the Monster Seeker and the Grim Resolve that you saw in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
armies.
Yeah, those are very, very common. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it looks like some of the big tanky characters went up, right?
Good, because I
But
hate playing those guys.
yeah, I mean, yeah, so couple things there, but it doesn't look like major changes other than the little nerfs to the Dragon
Yeah.
Seekers. And then let's see, what else do we have in
A
here?
big point drop I just saw was in core additional Greybeards, or it went from 19 to 16. That's a 3 point drop. out of
Mm.
19 points. That's a lot.
I know that on the forums there were a number of people that were complaining that you can see that they increased the cost of the minimum size units
Yeah,
and
by
then
10 points,
decreased the
right?
cost of the additional models. So there was this sort of thing about getting away from MSU, right? Small units of dwarves into
Mm-hmm.
bigger units of dwarves, which is what this is pushing clearly. So
Keep
I
watch.
don't know why
Yeah.
the Oregon gun needed to get cheaper. That seems crazy, but
But the rune crafted, if you could do it rune crafted, it went up in points. So
yeah, yeah.
steam copters went down, which is surprising. Oh, that's additional model. I'm sorry. Steam copters went up by
They
5.
went up. Yeah, I mean that's makes sense there in like every dwarf list.
Yeah, I think these are solid changes.
Hmm. Nothing ground shaking here other than the impact of the MSUs, right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
pretty big change for them.
All right, demon legions. I'm gonna need your help in these ones.
Yeah, so Demons categorized as a top tier book or maybe like a upper middle tier book, I think. And so it took some definite nerfs. Kind of going through the characters is what got
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. Big point ups here.
yeah, if you looked at the tournament data, lots of omens, lots of sentinels, and lots of scourges. So all of
Yeah.
those got hit with some pretty big nerfs. Counterpoint, courtesans hardly ever seen buffed, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did some things with the character mounts to that single model point. In the core, they were once again pushing, bigger
Bigger units. Yep.
units. Demons were one of the big offenders of that. Lots of little mini 10 person or 10 demon units. In special, not a lot of surprises here. Some buffs to things that weren't seen, but mainly nerfs to the chariots. Right,
Yeah.
you saw lots of threshing engines, Titan slayers, all that kind of stuff. Um, Hoarders also got some nerfs as well, making them more expensive. Most common choice for the Blazing Glory went up. The Cloven Hooves, 10 points was a ridiculous price. So honestly, all of these really made sense to me. I think they nerfed the things that needed it and buffed the things that never saw play.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And the Blowflies, Unhinging Jaw, I think that was also too cheap. So bringing that up to 8 made a lot
Yeah,
of
but
sense.
double the points. I mean, I guess it's not a lot of points per model because they're pretty pricey per model already, right?
Yeah, they're 100 points per model
Yeah.
flat, right? So they're not cheap, but 4 points to reroll wounds against, I think it's large and gigantic is ridiculous. I mean,
Yep.
that's a great skill. So yeah, um, overall, I think it could move some things around, make some builds change a little bit. It certainly made it harder to spam some of the things that were being spammed a lot. So I think good update here. Nothing unexpected. I think pretty reasonable.
All right. Empire of Sonstal.
Neither of us play this army really. I
I
guess
played
I
a
do have
little bit.
a small EOS army, but I don't play it regularly.
Inquisitor went down 10 points. Interesting. And
Okay.
but Blessed Steel went up 5. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
know Inquisitors are like on that verge of like being used a lot and kind of still not being used a lot. I'd like to see Inquisitors use because I think they're cool, just as cool models.
Yeah. No, the D3 wounds thing is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people are starting to find some use for them.
The
But yeah, it looks
prelate,
like
the prelate Oliver went down 15, which I think is due.
mhm, yeah.
Knight
Um,
Commander 0 to 3 per army. That's interesting.
yeah, that is probably one of the like you can put them on young griffins and stuff like that. So that's probably has something to do with that. And
And
let's
in
see.
core,
So
it's just more additional infantry.
light infantry crossbows going up is good though. That was a really common choice,
Mm-hmm.
and because it was free partially,
Yeah.
and I think that's a good change. But happy to see the big units like heavy infantry getting cheaper, things like that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Knights of the Sun Griffin dropping 10 points for the start and dropping, what is that, 8 points for additional. I think it's good.
Yep.
Knights and
Agree.
Sun Griffin are pretty damn good, but they're just not used that much.
Yeah, I think they struggle because there's lots of other things to spend the points on,
Hmm.
right? Outside of war, right? So readers getting more expensive
Yeah,
definitely makes
makes complete
sense.
sense. And then Volley Gun going down 10 points. Yeah,
Yeah. Oof. I hate to see him across the field, but I guess they didn't see a ton of play, so it makes sense.
yeah. Again, solid changes. I'm pleased.
Yeah,
All right, Highborn
I'm
Elves.
pretty happy with it overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone else. So obviously I'm high elf ACS, right? So I have a special special
La
bond.
di da. Just throw it in our
Uh,
faces already.
Yeah, I think directionally I agree with a lot of the things that were done in here.
Hmm.
Stuff that was seen a lot got nerfs. The Sliver, the Blazing Dawn, the Spear. Everybody hates
Yeah.
the Master of the Krennic Tower Commander went up because I had somebody once tell me when I took a double master list with no MOCT that they couldn't remember the last time they played a high elf opponent
That
with.
Master of the Krennic Tower Commander BSB is just was just standard for so long.
Yeah, so you can see, I mean, think back to what I said about the percentage, right? So this guy took a 30 point on a 150 point hit,
Yeah.
right? So that is a heavy hammer right there. So big
Yeah.
message.
But then the High Prince Master of the Krennic Tower went down almost 50%. What is yeah.
Yeah, but that's basically to balance it.
Yeah.
The High Priest Master was never seen, and so if you nerf the commander, you nerf the prince unless
Hmm.
you prince. So that I'm glad to see that. I'm glad they did that.
Yeah.
So a few other things to be called out. Fleet officer, never seen, got a good buff. Still expensive for what he does, but you'll notice that Griffin's got hit pretty much across the board with a
Yep.
20
I was
point.
gonna say that could be seen coming. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. I mean, I don't disagree that they needed to get buffed. So, and it helps to prevent some of the spam as well. Although you can see there's some hard caps in here for the number of Griffins as well, I think. And then some really good buffs to some core units.
Spears.
The
Yeah.
lancers, the archers, the additional models for citizen spears. So hope maybe start to see some big units. I think is really good.
Hmm.
Combine that with the command changes, and you can really see some. You could potentially see some changes in Hive Core. I think maybe it's a good move. Seaguard got nerfed a lot. But if you balance that with the command, actually the old unit that people were taking is still about the same price. So and then all the elite infantry got cheaper for additional models, right? Pushing the bigger units, and the Frost Phoenix got a little cheaper. Fire Phoenix
Yeah.
got a little expensive to counterbalance it, so it stayed about flat. I think went down
Yeah.
just a little.
It's just 5 points. Yeah. Down the. Yeah.
I think overall I don't have a lot of complaints about this. The only thing that I think is a shame is there's, you know, I can think of, a couple dozen entries in the book that literally, I've done the tournament analysis. They don't see play. High Warden of the Flame, Fleet Officer, a number of the magic items, just never seen and not even in here. So I think that's a missed opportunity to try to, improve some points,
Hmm.
for things that don't see play and see if they could get on the tabletop. But anyways, yeah. But overall, I don't disagree with a lot of the changes.
All right. ID. No points changes. I thought. Oh, I thought they did.
Yeah, they're still in beta, so they just that the command point changes.
All right. KOE. I am unfamiliar with anything in this book, so let's see here.
An army that relies on big knight units
Hmm.
likes that change to the commands, right? So that's one thing.
Yeah. True. Very much so.
It looks like some of the kind of repeat offenders, Banner of the Last Charge, Might, Virtue, got
So the
nerfed.
Oriflamme went down what 15 points, and I don't think I've ever seen that on the board.
Yeah, well, uh, trying to get it out there. think is that the one that it, like makes the unit cause fear and maybe something else that, as a banner, maybe gives a breath weapon, something like that. But yeah, well, it got
Hold
a lot
on.
cheaper.
We got the book right here in front of us. Let me check here. Oriflamme cannot be taken by units that count towards Tor. Makes cause fear. Enemy units in base contact with bear's unit cannot benefit from rally around the flag.
Hmm.
It's
It's
interesting.
actually not a bad item. Interesting. Um, so it looks like they made a few other things cheaper. Knights of the Grail got a lot cheaper. Interesting. Knights Forlorn, a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Levy. What
Peg
else?
Knights. Yeah.
Scorpion went up.
Yeoman. Yeah. Yeah. Scorpion
Thanks.
went up. Yeoman went up. Peg
Green
Knights
Knight.
went down.
Yeah.
And Green Knight actually went up. They just put the wrong arrow in there.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't seem shocking. I mean, I think some things I'm used to seeing across the table every time are on here getting nerfed and stuff
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen getting buffed, so makes sense.
Yeah. If we're
Um,
missing something, KOE players out there, please let us know.
yeah, or other books that we don't play.
Okay. Ogre Cons. Come on,
Okay.
let's see some of the Mammoth Hunter nerfs right now. Yeah, there's
They
20 points to the base cost.
yeah.
Vanguard
Also
went up 5. Yeah, yeah,
common big names, the Troll Eater and the Headhunter and stuff went up.
yeah. All that
So
stuff. Yeah, they got hit pretty hard. I think.
they did, but if you take into account the Destiny's Call, right,
Mm-hmm.
option, so they can now get to that cheaper than they used to be able to,
Oh,
that board, right?
yeah.
So
But here's the
uh,
big one: 0 to 2 Mammoth Hunters per army, unless you're doing the Wild Heart, and then you have 4. Because everyone was running 2 or 3 for a while there.
yeah, a Shaman and 3 Mammoth Hunters, or a Shaman and a BSB and 3 Mammoth Hunters was pretty common.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that does make a difference. Problem is that now these two, these guys are going to be, you're going to have 2 4 up guys coming at you, whereas before they couldn't field two 4 ups. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a nerf and a bit of a lateral
Mm-hmm.
move as well. So
Slight points decrease across the board for Merc Vets.
Tester Cav
And
also
Tusker
not.
Cab went down. Yeah, which makes sense. That was not being used very much.
Yep. And you see the Aurochs and the Great
Yep.
Weapon on the Slave Giant and the Kin Eaters going up, which just makes sense because they were seen a lot. So yeah, it's I think this all makes sense to me. I don't think it's anything surprising.
Yeah.
And Ogre Cons, I think we're seen as a top tier book.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
nerfs to their
I would say the Mammoth Hunters are the biggest abusers on the Ordercons book. Do you think this is enough of a nerf or just right?
well, let's add it up here. So we're talking about 20 points, 25, 30. So a 30-point nerf
Yeah, and then
to,
if you want to go over 2 of them in an army, you have to go Wild Heart. That's yeah.
and that's a big deal. I mean, I think facing 2 of them instead of 3 in a typical list is a nice boost for opponents. So I think that could be enough. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see. I do think Destiny's Call makes a big difference. So
I can see where you're coming from. Oh, this is a different layout than the rest of them. Okay, here we go. Not many changes to ONG.
it makes sense that it would be structured more simply for an ONG book, doesn't it?
Let's see here. Goblin King went up, and the
Uh,
Gargantula Mount went up.
hmm.
Additional models in rank in core went down as always.
Wow, the Goblin Witch Doctor Wizard Master went down. You don't often see changes to the
Mm.
caster. That's interesting.
Now they're just even cheaper masters, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Nasher herds changed, and they went up 10, which I think is a good call.
Yeah. But lots of additional models getting cheaper.
and wolf chariot's getting more expensive, which I think made sense. You started to see them a lot. Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, nothing big
No,
change here, but they were kind of the middle of the road book before the points change, so I think this is fine.
mhm. Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right, moving
The
on.
feral orcs getting more expensive is probably good. They were in like every list, so
Yeah, you're right. Did I miss that?
yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
Feral Orc.
feral orc green hide race went up for both
Just
the
one
base.
point a model, yeah, and plus the base, yeah.
Huge, but I mean, you feel them in big units, right? So
Yeah.
it's like 30, 40 point hits for those units.
All right, Sword Ancients.
It's all you, sir.
Serrated Scales went down 15 points, which is an item never used, but I think it could be cool on a skink. Gets you those 2 strength 5 AP2 grind attacks, which is kind of cool. I'm still like throwing over ideas of where to put that in. Skink captains went up by 5 points. I think I was the herald of this, but using a bunch of skink captains, people started doing it all over the place, and this is a response to that, which is fine. 5 points isn't that crazy. Um, so Saurus across the board went down, which is cool. Because everyone was using them except for me. I've never used them, but most Saurian Ancient players fill out their core with one block of Saurus warriors, Saurian warriors, and then small skink blocks to just run away and chaff. This is good because it's just making them stronger, and they weren't they. My opinion, Saurian warriors weren't strong enough to field.
Yeah. Also, one thing to call out between that additional models, the command changes and that change to the crocodile.
Oh, I skipped over. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just I've rarely played the crocodile totem
Mm-hmm.
Saurus warrior, but I did play them once, and they are a beast to take down out of core.
Yeah. If they get that 3 up armor in combat, and then you're
Yeah,
running alchemy and you give them 1 up, it's really good. Or
yeah, that
yeah.
having that out of core, and now it's 2 points a model cheaper and the command cheaper. I mean, it could be interesting. Those things are beefy.
And it can really turn Saurian warriors and Temple Guard, which we'll get to in a second, into real anvils for the Saurian ancients, which I think is cool. Really
Mm,
grind units.
mm.
The thing I skipped over, I think, is the most interesting change in the book. Soulfire Weaver, 120 points down to 60. That's a 50% drop. So
I
no
trying
one
to.
ever took this, and I am seriously considering it now because you can combine it with the other 120 point buffs. I'm blanking on the name right now. The +1 to cast and +1 channel.
Was it Grasp of the Immortal?
Yeah, Grasp.
Uh,
Thank you, Grasp the Immortal. Combining it with that makes it kind of interesting. And this is not good if you're facing elves, if you're facing low toughness, um, high value models, which I think is going to be cool. I think
I mean,
evocation's a really great lore also. So
it basically lets you take an Evo master and a
mm-hmm.
Pyro master at the same time, which is really cool. And it needed to be cheaper, and now it is. I think with Dread Elves coming up in the meta, you could really see this
Yeah,
potentially.
I am
Evo,
100% testing this, so don't worry.
good. Heard it here first. And the best part is nobody will expect it because most people know what it is.
Let's see. Raptor Riders went down a significant drop across the board. I've
Yeah,
only seen them really used as 5-man darts, but that's cool. They're tough. They're good.
yeah.
Temple Guard went down across the board, which is great. I think Temple Guard are a cool unit, and I'm tired of seeing quaddles attached to the side of skink units. I think it's a fluff wise, I don't like it, and then it's in the game, it's just weird. It makes it look funky with them as size bases. I think giving them more incentive to be in Temple Guard units is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cost didn't get shifted too much though, because I actually think the Temple Guard base cost is like pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
But I'm glad to see that the big,
4 points off the additional model is pretty solid.
yeah.
Ramphron Riders went up, which I think is fine. A lot of people are using them. I'm not in love with Ramphron Riders, but they do when you hit them in the right spot and they haven't been shot down yet, they can really hit like a Mack truck.
Mhm.
Let's see here. Salamanders went down by 5 points. Taurosaur went up. I think that's by 20 points. I think that's completely understandable. Taurosaurs are pretty just beefy all the way around. They're really good. And then the
Yeah, my
Thyroscutus went down 20 points.
two in per list
Yeah,
in each in Story and Ancients,
yeah.
like ridiculously common. But Thyroscutus going down, hey,
That's the
and
that's the other thing I'm excited about. I want to use. I got two Thyroscutus models. I want to use them. Down to 255 base, and then if you give them the +1, the channel, it's 270. Is 270 too expensive for a kind of weird, different piece of chaff? Which with where they're tar pits. That's what they are.
I mean, one channel is 50 points,
Yeah,
right? So what is it, a one up
yeah. You get a tar pit and you get a channel out of it. If you're running a quaddle, that's nice.
and a crush attack? I
Yeah,
mean, I think
the
I
crush
think
attack
it's
happens every once in a while.
yeah, it does. It does. You occasionally get that that sweaty moment when your ancient
Mm-hmm.
dragon is going to get a crush attack from a from a
Yeah.
Thyroscutus.
Honestly, I think overall, I'm surprised how much of a buff Story Ancient got. I think Story Ancient was a solid list beforehand, and then they basically got kind of good buffs across the board, except for the stuff that was being abused. And so I'm
Mm.
excited about it. Yeah,
Hopefully, it opens up some new builds. I'd love to see some big Saurus blocks again instead of the like Saurus, Taurosaur,
yeah,
cloud.
because that was always the problem with Story Ancients is they have two core choices, and then people were just trying to find ways to get through fielding core. Like there was never the key point of your army has never been core in Story Ancients. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to see some beefy crocodile blocks coming out. Maybe, you know.
All right, Sylvan Elves. And we can expect here is points drops all over the place.
Yeah, they were listed as a lower performing book. I think the Sylvan Elf community is happy about the changes, the ones I've talked to. I mean, look at it. I think pretty much everything is a price reduction,
Yeah,
not many
your
increases.
whole all of your magic items are down.
Hmm.
Dryads are still down if you run them over the base size.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
points across the board. The one thing I was expecting in here is I think that the big complaint is the max number of bows in the army is 55, and they didn't raise that. I was expecting them to raise it by a certain amount, but kept it at 55. But they just lowered points across the board.
yeah. I think I think the Sylvan Elf book could use some love. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's functioning, but it feels like a tale of two books, right? You got the tree spirits and you've got
Yeah.
the elves, and like you want them to be shooty, but it's a fine line because they could be too good and never fight and just shoot you to death, which is a boring game. I think buffs are good. None of them are super big buffs, so it's just going to be kind of like here's a few extra models, which is good. Some things got hit that were, Sylvan Sentinels were ubiquitous.
Mm-hmm.
They were in every list.
Yeah.
Some of I think, like, what else? I guess the Kestrel Knights with shields was slight nerf to them, but nothing major.
Yeah.
So
Nothing
yeah,
crazy beyond that.
good for the book. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
see what
I'd,
happens.
I'd love to
I,
see. I'd love to see more Sylvan Elves on the board.
yep,
I think they're a cool
yep,
army. All right, UD. So after the last points adjustments where they got hit really hard,
yep.
they kind of I don't know. What do you think?
I think it looks, if you look at it, it looks like they got a good quantity of buffs, right? There's just a couple of things that went up in price. They continue to nerf the chariots for the characters because that's the most popular choice. They, they have, they've definitely done a lot to try to increase the rank and file
Hmm.
infantry and cavalry as opposed to the constructs, right? So
And I
you can
think
see.
and I think UD is good. Like a while ago, one of the last UB tournaments, I played someone who had not a Necropolis Guard bus, but a just a Spearman bus
Mhm.
with all the buffs you can put on them. That thing was scary. I mean, like UD can make some pretty gnarly rank and file units.
Yeah, yeah. I think you know, this could be a good thing. The UD list had gotten very stale, and then they got nerfed to crap, and so to have something worse, big parts of the book. I mean, there's some big buffs in here, right? I mean, Necropolis Guard. This is 2 rounds in a row where they've gotten 2 point for additional
Oh
model
yeah, yeah.
reductions. So that's a big change for them. You also see the underused ones like the Tomb Reapers going way down in price. I mean, that's for a unit of 3, that's like a 30 something point buff, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think this could be good for the book. It probably doesn't go far enough, but I think it could definitely see you could definitely see some infantry and some cavalry, maybe cavalry, infantry, maybe. Yeah.
That was my dream. What was it? One of the model companies made an undead camel model, which I thought is the coolest looking model. And it's just like I have to make a cavalry UD army. It's gonna suck every day, but I want to do it.
It sounds like a Kenyan project. Yeah.
All right, VC. Let's see here. All right, I can't tell you the last time I placed a VC, but looks like all the characters kind of went down. All those buffs. Zombie dragon
I
went down.
I think so. What do we? So there are a few big changes in here. So
Ooh,
the
cadaver wagon went
cadaver
down.
wagon,
Yeah.
big big buff. I mean unseen. So I think that's good. It'd be interesting to see that back on the table again. Um, you know, Infantry units, like you see the barrel guard getting cheaper in big sizes.
Uh-huh.
Um, Things that
Yeah.
were being seen a lot, like the Dark Coach and the Shrieking Horror, for example, going up doesn't surprise me. I think
Uh-huh.
that was needed. So yeah.
Yeah, it seems all seems fine. The ghouls went down a point additional. I saw ghouls a lot in the meta I'm playing in.
Mm. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't. I think that this, you see a lot of things that didn't see it much play.
Mm-hmm.
Getting cheaper and just a few outlier things getting more expensive. It doesn't seem like a big change here. So hopefully it opens up some new builds. We'll see.
Yeah, I think this is good though. I think this is pushing you VC back to those big zombie skeleton blocks,
Yeah.
and I think that's cool. And I think that the whole change of across the board toward more rank and flank is gonna multiply these points changes in this book. I think they're really going to do it. I think this list is going to come back strong, in my opinion.
Yeah. Hopefully.
All right, and then the dirty, dirty rats, vermin swarm. All right. So I haven't looked at this list, but I heard the vermin demon went up. Yeah, by 20.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been steadily creeping up little by little. Um,
Vermin
yeah.
Hulks went up base because I've seen a lot of Vermin Hulks, but their additional models went down by 10 points.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, that's actually a buff, and I haven't seen a 3-man Vermin Hulk unit maybe ever. So I think that ends up being a buff for them.
I think they're trying to. I've seen a lot of Thunder Hulk
Mm,
units running around with the naphtha throwers, just doing
mm,
reforming and shooting. I've seen that a lot. That
mm,
might be the reason for that. But I've also seen a fair amount of like 6 or 8 block of regular Vermin Hulks around, and they
mhm.
just they got a big buff, which I think those Vermin Hulks are brutal in combat. If you're not, they snuck up on me a few times.
Yeah, they combo well with the div too. The
Mhm.
reroll to hit with the battle focus is huge. Yeah, I mean, the usual suspects, the Vermin Demon, the Plague Disciples, the Jezzails, the Dreadmill, and the Plague Catapult all got nerfs.
A-bomb got a
I'm not
nerf, so
sure.
15 points for the A-bomb went up.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I mean, if you took that build, which I guess in my last few games, that's been the thing that I've faced. Yeah, you probably, you're gonna lose. What is it? Usually you see 2 to 3 Plague Disciple units, so that's 20 to 30 points. You usually see a Vermin Demons, that's 20 points. You usually see a couple Dreadmills, so that's 20 points.
Yeah.
Couple Plague Catapults. I mean, so you could see typical net list getting nerfed by 100 points outside of core, and that's
I'm surprised to
probably
see
about right.
no point change to the pendulum.
I think that one's it. They did nerf that one quite a bit last
Hmm.
year, and it took a big point increase. So I haven't seen it that one as often anymore. But yeah, a few things. The A bomb went up. That one got a lot cheaper last update. Apparently too cheap. Because I see those a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean they got some nerfs. Let's see if it makes a difference. I don't think it will, but
All right. And last but
I'm
not
a vermin
least,
cynic.
yeah. Well, everyone hates the Vermin Storm. Come
Yeah.
on. Warriors of the Dark Gods. Let's see here. So, the thing I did notice is, wait, champions, musicians, and standard bearers went down to 10 here, but also the exalted champions stayed or went up.
They basically stayed flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was that was intentional. So like special champions like those ones or the like conclave champions, right? Those didn't get cheaper. So it was just targeted at non, you know, special champions, I guess.
Hmm. Let's see here. Significant changes I'm seeing are chosen knights went down 15 points a model, or base
Oh,
cost, and then 10 points
yeah.
per model.
That's actually a pretty big buff because you'd see units of 5 or 6 of these, and
Hmm.
that's a what like a 30, 40 point, you know, decrease. That's pretty nice for units like that.
Chosen chariots went up, which I was expecting, just by 10 points.
Yeah, but all the good marks went up too.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean it's about what like a 20, 30 point nerf to them, which is good.
Battle shrines up 25.
Yeah. Yeah, that one you see them in a lot of lists. The fact that they can carry spells, is pretty awesome. So
Hmm.
yeah.
And then the good old Feldrakes up. Base cost up 15, 5 points per up 5 points per model, and up 2 points for paired weapons. These were the definitely the most abused part of Warriors of the Dark Gods before this. I think this is a pretty evenly handed nerf, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you run the math on a kind of the typical net list, which would have been a big unit of Feldrax, a couple chosen chariots, a couple Feldrak elders,
Hmm.
you're looking at probably somewhere in the neighborhood of like 120-ish point nerf to that kind of typical list. I mean, they were pretty. They were definitely top tier, and I think pretty clearly like number one, or at least I think most people thought that. I was a little surprised that it wasn't a bit heavier. Exalted Heralds you saw in pretty much every list. You don't see a nerf to them.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even
Um,
think of that.
I mean, the Feldrak Elder is. I mean, I can't remember the last time I played a Warriors list without one. 35 points. It's still cheaper than a Gortak. I mean, I don't know. It still seems pretty awesome for that price to me. Um, so yeah, I mean, we'll see if it changes up the Warriors. A lot of people are saying that the Helmaw might see a resurgence here. Um,
Yeah, I can see that.
so we'll see. I mean, I like the buffs to things like Chosen. chosen knights, warriors, warrior knights, like all
Hmm.
those things. Hopefully that starts creating some competition for the Feldrax. But I thought it was a bit of a cautious
Yeah,
nerf to
I was
given
like,
the performance.
I was expecting more of a buff for the warrior knights. I feel like I never saw them, but
I mean, that's I guess that isn't an enormous buff. It's a good point. The chosen got a big buff,
yeah, they did. And
5
chosen are
points of
cool.
mortal.
Like I think they're very unique. Like the two wound infantry model is a unique model in the game, and it's that hyper elite infantry is, and they're still a max unit size of 10 or something like that, or 15.
Probably something like that. Yeah,
I
we're
think
in the
that's a
book.
cool unit.
You scroll up.
Oh yeah, I could just do that. I could just do that. Legendary, where are you? Special,
You just
special,
pass it. Yeah, a little further. Yeah,
chosen 10.
yeah, 5 to 10.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think it's hard to use, but it's like I think it's a cool unit.
well, and the Helmo makes him mobile. I mean, I just hope it changes things up. If I have to playing that double Feldrak
Oh yeah,
brick,
I'm just
double
tired of
chosen
it.
chariot, elder, your herald, it's just like I can't.
I think they nerfed the Feldrax the amount. I think they needed to take more off of the elders.
Mm.
It's a 20 point hit, and then if you want to give him a halberd or paired weapons, yeah. I feel like there should have been more there, but it is what it is.
Yep. I mean, directionally correct. I think the magnitude could be debated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That is all the books. Overall thoughts, I think we hit at the beginning of the episode. I'm pleased and I'm excited to get some games in. The Fading Flame or whatever it is, the league is starting up. I believe you got your
Mhm.
first game in. I'm going to get my first game in tomorrow. And then the team tournament starting up pretty soon also.
Yeah. So we'll have plenty of battle report fodder in the coming weeks and months. And yeah, I'm interested to see what the update does along with the Dread Elf book to the meta. I think it'll be, I'm not sure it'll be quite enough to change everything, but I think you'll start to see some stuff you haven't seen as often, and hopefully it'll be good to get some fresh stuff on the table. So yeah.
I guess my last question for you is: are you sticking with the Highborn Elves, or are you tempted back to the UD or the Dread Demon Legions right now?
Um, I've been mainly tinkering with Highborn elves. My army is built so I could also represent Sylvan elves, and I've been working on some lists for them too. I think
Ooh.
they're kind of interesting. Dread elves as well. I've tinkered with some lists. I'm gonna wait till they settle down a little bit more. But and Demon Legions, I haven't had a chance to kind of go back through my lists and think about how they've changed. There were some things that I was already thinking about there. So I think any of the above, but I'll probably be doing highborns for the foreseeable future. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm sticking with my beast herds for now. Starting Ancients, I'm still tinkering with on the side. I'm still always trying to do that Cult of the Snake God, all skinks, all came in list. It didn't get that much of a buff with these point changes. So, but this tinkering around with the Soulfire Weaver and using Temple Guard is what I'm looking at right now in that list.
I want to see that list when you're done with it.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We are back from the holidays officially, and we'll start pumping out some new videos. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.